Good morning. How are you today? And welcome to the CA's Channel's Breakfast Show. You know how we do it every morning on this station. 614 on Moplex. Moplex is Nigerian decoder. Just get yourself one. Be patriotic. We have to grow our naira. We have to make sure that we are one of those that is intentional, very intentional about making the naira stronger. That is why we have to buy everything Nigeria made. Your clothes Nigeria made, your hair Nigeria made. Do you get what I'm trying to tell you? So Moplex is our Nigeria cable TV. So get your own decoder from Moplex and tune in to 614 to watch our breakfast show every morning 9 a.m. till when we are done with it. Alright, I am Toke Bravo. I'm still in the spirit of the Workers' Day celebration. It happened yesterday, and a lot of us didn't get the chance to celebrate because, of course, we are on duty working as well as usual. So why some people stay back at home, some of us were on the field working, why some people are going to celebrate their own Workers' Day today in the office. They will come together, do one or two things. I still felicitate with every worker in the country. I say that our efforts, our labors shall not be in vain. We shall all reap the good fruits of our labor. We shall not work in vain. As we work to make Nigeria a better place, believe me, we shall one day be celebrated as well as the zealous workers that we have always been. Welcome once again to the show, and I am Toke Bravo. We go on a quick break. When we come back, the show continues. Welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned. We are going straight into the lucky stories that made it to the front pages of the national dailies. We are starting with the Nation newspaper this morning. Payment of 275 billion to property owners on Lagos Calabar Road begins. If you want the total breakdown on that story, grab your copy of the Nation newspaper. Jubilation as Transportation Minister flags off Port Harcourt Aba train service. That story is on the page 4 of the Nation newspaper. 17 northbound passengers burnt to death in Enugu bus crash. That's on page 8. We pray for the departed souls to rest in peace. And on the banner headline, we have federal government promises living wage as NLC demand 615,000 naira as minimum wage. On the rather, we have minimum wage payment to be backdated to April. Backdated to April. Sorry about that. TUC issues ultimatum on electricity tariff hike. If you want to get these stories, it's on the front page of the Nation newspaper. We have more to go. And finally, family head 6 PD Olubado coronation at meeting with Ladoja. That's on page 8. And moving on to the next paper, we have the Daily Times. On the Daily Times, we have how to check bullying in schools. That's coming from the Educationist. How to check bullying in schools. This is something that all schools must get to understand. Okay, there was a time people were talking on the internet that we tag bullying to something very important, that it happens back then in the days. It's just like more like to fighting like they target, but now we call it bullying. But the truth is that whether two have to fight or someone has to bully someone, it shouldn't happen in a learning space. Parents should learn to train their children, inculcate discipline, instill discipline in them, so that when they get to open spaces, especially in learning space, they will learn to respect others. And if they have issues with their mates, they can easily go to their teachers or whoever is in charge of that case. They can easily go to them. But if you go through these stories on the Daily Times today, how to check bullying in schools, you will get to understand. And I think that paragraph should be for both parents and teachers. Moving on, despite delay, new national minimum wage to take effect from April 1st, even though the government has not announced it yet. This is coming from the Labour Minister, that the government is already owing 1 month minimum wage. So that's a good news from the minister, that despite delay, new national minimum wage to take effect from April 1st, 2024. That statement came from the Labour Minister. Still on May Day, my administration has recruited over 5,000 workers in past 7 years, says Obaseki. If you want to know more about that story, it's on the page 9 of the Daily Times. MNJTF intensifies operations to eliminate Boko Haram ISWAP in Lake Chad. I think this is getting too late already. They should just do it already, and let's have peace and tranquility in all areas where people can farm easily, where people can do their businesses without the fear of people coming to attack or kidnap them. Moving on the banner headline, we have "Your days of worrying are over." This statement is coming from the President Tinubu. Says expect not only minimum wage but living wage. Suits for industrial peace, harmony and unity. You see, while reading this, you see the smile on my face. Living wage. I think this is a good time for all Nigerian workers. We pray that this administration succeed. We pray that whatever they have in mind comes to able to make sure that the economy stables, the universe, everything that they need will work in accordance to support them. Still on May Day, bold leadership required to steer Nigeria towards recovery. That is coming from the Nigerian Labour Congress, National Labour Congress. If you want to know more about that, please grab yourself the Daily Times. And finally, on the Daily Times, we have federal government pays 2.75 billion compensation for Lagos Calabar Coastal Road project. It's on the 15th page of the Daily Times. You can get that story there also. Moving on to the Punch newspaper. Lagos Calabar Highway government fourth landmark title begins 2.7 billion naira compensation payment. And on minimum wage, federal government labor talks deadlocked. NLC defend 615,000 naira demand. Tinubu says government union failed to reach consensus, assures workers of living minimum wage. Federal government frustrated negotiation. Anything below 615,000 will make workers poorer. That statement is coming from the NLC and TUC that government is frustrating negotiation. They are hell-bent on getting 615,000 for every workers in Nigeria. That is their demand. But I believe that once the negotiation is still ongoing, they should reach a compromise, a consensus, so that this minimum wage can start rolling in. Civil servants are due for it. The economy states it's all over. We know what the economy state is right now. Therefore, the minimum wage should be that fat, should be that encouraging to give civil servants better life. Agric inputs gobs 12 trillion naira despite 9-year anchor borrower scheme. That's on the page 28 on the Punch newspaper. Lagos uncovers underbridge apartment where tenant pays 250,000 rent. We are actually going to share this story later after the newspaper headlines review, because I have that story for you today. Isn't that funny? Under the bridge, some people are paying rent. Safe School initiative to cover off-campus hostels. That's coming from a commander. If you want to know that story, it's in the Punch newspaper. You can get it. School mourns 14-year-old British Nigerian killed in London sword attack. Moving on, we have federal government restricts Lagos bridges, sand miners and licenses. Federal government restricts Lagos bridges, sand miners and licenses. That story is also on the Punch. We move to the Daily Independent. Your days of worrying are over, Tinubu assures workers. Says he's more concerned in living wage than minimum wage. Your efforts, thank you my director, your efforts remain lifeblood of the economy, Obi tells workers. That statement is coming from Obi. Truthfully, check into that statement. Without workers, our economy cannot be stable. Manpower cannot be achieved. So we just need to celebrate our workers every day, including myself. I'm a worker, so I am indirectly celebrating myself today on the show. Moving on, I will promptly implement new minimum wage. Fubara assures Rivers workers. Tinubu was misled to suspension of Igwe as medical director. That's another story on the Daily Independent. Biggest mess created in 2023 was devaluation of Naira, says Dangote. And another story here says Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, federal government begins 2.75 billion compensation payment to property owners. On the Daily Independent, this story is on the page 7 if you like to read. Enugu workers declare most worker friendly governor. That they are giving their governor some accolades, and I hope he has gotten his flowers already. And on the banner headline, we have NLC TUC give federal government 1 week to reverse electricity tariff hike. Ignore federal government 35% salary increase. Insists on 615,000 minimum wage. Borrowing foreign currency to defend Naira short-sighted approach. That is coming from the NLC. So if the NLC is not going to go into an agreement with the federal government, do you think that this minimum wage of a thing can be feasible? Can the payment be feasible this month, May, even though they already have an outstanding of April already? Do you think we stand a chance? Does workers stand a chance to get this minimum wage at the end of this month if the NLC TUC and the federal government cannot reach a consensus on time? We have 1.5 billion liters of petrol to last 30 days. That is coming from the reps. Right now, I'm reading from the Vanguard newspaper, the front page, the stories that makes it to the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Nasima President Oye to speak at Vanguard Economic Summit. On insecurity, Matawale urges US to share intel on terrorism and banditry. On May Day, governors promise better working conditions, pay rise for workers. If you want to know the number of governors that have given their words to better the lots of their workers in their state, you need to go through the story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. We have more story on the Vanguard newspaper. On the headline, Labour gives federal government May 31st deadline on minimum wage. Bank closed 2 million accounts over BVN, NIN and others. Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway federal government begins 2.75 billion 275 billion compensation to property owners. Some papers are reporting 2.75 billion. Some are saying 275 billion compensation to property owners. Whatever it is, property owners are surely going to be compensated. And here we have Eagles will qualify for 2026 World Cup that is coming for Finidi. Is coming from Finidi. And that's what we have on the Vanguard newspaper. We go on a quick break. When we come back, we are still on the stories that makes it to the front pages of the newspaper. Stay with us. For staying tuned. This is CA Channel's Breakfast Show. If you're just joining us, this program comes up every morning. We talk about stories in politics, trending stories in the nation, politics, business, and what have you. Whatever you think of, you can get on this program every morning. And don't forget to please place your advert on this program too, to reach a lot of viewers, as we are so vast on both internet and Moplex decoder. Moving on to the Guardian newspaper, Labour demands inflation-proof pay, frequent wage review. If you want to know more about that, it's on the page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Minimum wage takes back seat in Kano, Kwara, and as NLC marks May Day. Moving on, Telco loses irregular levy remittance, threatening NCC's 549 billion naira target. PDP chides Ayedatiwa for budgeting 5 billion naira to renovate daycare centers. Workers worry as federal government assures on May 1st date for minimum wage. Super Eagles out to support indigenous coaches to grow and win laurels. That's on sport on the Guardian newspapers. Duty exchange rate fueling uncertainty adjusted 28 times in 2024 first quarter, says CPPE, that the CBN have changed the adjusted the rate for 28 times just in first quarters. There is a complaint, but to some people, if this is what they have to do to get it right, why not? PDP rallies aggrieved members, targets 2027 presidency. 10 years after, the shame of Chibok lingers on government. 10 years after, the shame of Chibok lingers on government. This happened 2014, where some girls were abducted in the Chibok High School. Some girls were abducted, some were released. Many others are still in the captivity of the Boko Haram sect. And this is just like a reminder to the government that even though it is 10 years past, it is a shame on the government that these girls are still in detention, in captivity. They are supposed to be back with their families, living life as a normal human being. They are already being traumatized. What is the government doing about this? These are the stories that we can take that have made it to this, that have been lucky enough to make it. Hey, Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources Tokunbo Wahab on Wednesday said the government discovered 86 partitioned rooms sized 10 by 10 and 12 by 10 under the Dolphin Estate Bridge Ikoyi on Lagos Island. Isn't that funny? As in bridge. Someone built that kind of sizes of house and the numbers 86 of it under the bridge. Tenants are set to be paying 250,000 per annum for the makeshift apartment under the bridge. Who is the landlord now? Wahab shared this information via a post on X on Wednesday along with videos. He added that the enforcement team of Lagos State Ministry of Environment and Water Resources had successfully removed all structures, including a container utilized for various illegal activities, from beneath the Dolphin Estate Bridge. Sharing videos, he wrote, a total number of 86 rooms partitioned into 10 by 10 and 12 by 10 and a container used for different illegal activities were discovered under the Dolphin Estate Bridge. They have all been removed by the enforcement team of the Lagos State Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources. A special advisor to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Kunle Rotimi Akodu, further confirmed the eviction of squatters from beneath the underbridge towards Dolphin Estate in Ikoyi over illegal settlement and environmental violations. Rotimi Akodo mentioned that 23 individuals were arrested during eviction, which was carried out by the officials of the Lagos State Environmental Sanitation Corps, popularly known as CAI, on Tuesday. He wrote, squatters dwelling under the bridge leading from inward Dolphin Estate, Ikoyi, were evicted today, Tuesday, 30th of April 2024, by officials of the Lagos State Environmental Sanitation Corps, aka CAI. These people created their illegal settlements under the bridge, thereby exposing the critical infrastructure to impending destruction. 23 persons have so far been arrested, and MOE/CAI will continue to monitor the place. The law will take its course. He also confirmed that the bridge has hitherto housed 86 rooms. Hey, this is very funny. Partitioned into 10 by 10 and all. Continuation of the removal of abroad under Dolphin Bridge. 11 more persons were arrested. It is important to note that wood materials were used to construct the shelters. Some occupants used gas cylinders and some had stored fuel for their generators. These are recipes of disaster. We don't need to be told. A bridge where vehicles ply on a daily, and you have, how did they start this? When did they start? And people are paying for it. It's not just ordinary kind of amount of money. It's not a meager sum of money. A huge amount of 250,000 per annum. That's huge. And how did they get the strength, the nerve to do this under a governmental property? Were there no people living in that estate that could have made a report to the right authorities before this menace has its leg fitted into the ground? Because this is already a menace. Because if there are 86 rooms under the bridge, imagine anything happens. Imagine should anything happen. People will start shouting, the government did this, the government did that. And there are a lot of other bridges in Lagos where you can find stuff like this, where people will build shanties in small shapes and all just to recite. One, who is to be blamed? Is it the government? Is it that people just take options to sleep under the bridge, or is it the standard of living that have pushed people to take that step? Because sleeping under the bridge in the first place is very, very dangerous to lives and properties. Not to talk of people putting fuel in the same house under the bridge. They use gas as well. Anything could have happened. And when hazards like that comes up, it falls on the government at the end of the day. So when government start demolishing all these structures, we will see people who will say government is not fair, government is not doing the right thing. Some other people might argue that because of the situation of the economy, because people cannot afford a house, because people cannot do this, because people does not have the capacity, the financial capacity to get a standard house, that's why they are living under the bridge. I for one do not support this, because in the long run most of these shanties are used for illegal activities. Just on Tuesday, on my way home, there was a very fatal accident on my 12th bridge. Approaching that bridge on my 12th, there was a fatal accident that claimed about 9 persons' lives. Under that heavy traffic in the evening, we saw guys robbing, taking from people, forcefully taking from people, and there were people shouting at them from the buses, but they refused to leave. You can imagine what Lagos State is like. You can't, if you don't have street sense, you cannot just walk anyhow in Lagos, especially when it's late, due to things like this. Who are these 86 occupants who have actually agreed to pay 250,000 per year under a bridge? Is it because this is situated in Ikoyi? Is it because of that? Because a lot of people wants to align, they wants to belong to the place, and they will go out and say, I live at Ikoyi. Who knows they live under the bridge, which is very, very detrimental to both their health and their life. It could be very dangerous for them. It's even dangerous, not could be, because should anything happen to, should any truck fall from the bridge like we used to have it on Ojuelegba Road and the rest, they become government property, they become government business to handle, because the government will always be there to see what is happening and then take responsibilities. What does it cost for citizens to be patriotic? What does it cost for citizens to keep and abide by the law? That's on the part of the citizens. If you want to join this conversation as I talk about it, please, there is the studio line on the screen to call. My director will place it on the screen for you to call. You can call in to join this conversation, because we just need to talk about this. That's on the part of the citizens. The government also, as they demolish these structures, should plan on what would better the lot of these people. There are some people who believes that because of the situation in the country, they can just take place. I have seen people who claims to be it's my country, it's my land, I can do anything I want to do. The government should put in the right measures to make sure that people does not live under the bridges. I remember during the ex-governor of Lagos State tenure, I'm talking about ex-governor Babatunde Raji Fashola. He made sure he cleared all shanties under Ijorabadia Bridge, and that place became a safer climb for people to pass. It became very safer. You can't pass that place once it is 6:37. You dare not go around some places in this area where I've mentioned. If you work in Lagos and you have to report on different areas, you will know these strategic places where government have to put in concern. It is just compulsory for them to do that, because it's funny. People should not be under the bridge, and to add more to this insult, they pay to someone who is not remitting money to the government. Who is that person that have the nerves to build with plank that that can just fall at any point in time or get burnt at any point in time. Who actually does it remit money to? Who are those? They are claimed landlords of these shanties. Who are they? How did they get the approval to do this? You just need to call in. I want to really hear your own opinion concerning this. But before we go to the next stories, while you were prepared to call, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we are still here on the CA Channel's Breakfast Show. A Child's Breakfast Show on 614 Moplex. If you have Moplex decoder, tell your neighbor to also get one today, especially now that subscriptions are changing on the other side. Let's buy our own to grow the naira. On the show, we have been talking about the shanties that the environmental officials of Lagos State found under the Ikoyi Bridge. We've been talking about that. Though they have demolished these houses, they have demolished these rooms. 86 rooms, about 86 rooms have been demolished, and some people have been arrested. I think that the Lagos State government should be giving some accolades for that step. And also, everyone that lives around the bridge, or that knows or have access to information to places where people endanger their lives, should also pass this information to the necessary authority. We shouldn't wait until when things that we do not plan for happen. We shouldn't wait for hazards to happen before we report the necessary issues to the right authorities. Moving on, we have a story from the front pages of the newspaper that we would like to talk again about today, and it's concerning the minimum wage, as the President Bola Tinubu assured Nigerian workers that the issues causing the delay in pronouncing the long-awaited new minimum wage, which had dashed workers' hopes, will soon be resolved. Speaking at the commemoration of Workers' Day in Abuja, Tinubu, represented by Vice President Ibrahim Shettima, pledged that his government would consider not only a minimum wage but also a living wage for workers. He highlighted the establishment of a 37-member tripartite committee on minimum wage by the federal government on January 30th, 2024, with the mandate to recommend a national minimum wage to align with current economic conditions. You would recall that on January 30th, 2024, the federal government convened a 37 tripartite committee on minimum wage. The committee's mandate was to provide counsel and suggest a national minimum wage that aligns with our current economic conditions. Since then, the committee, in collaboration with labor leaders, has been diligently working towards proposing a new national minimum wage. Unfortunately, despite concerted effort, the committee was unable to reach a consensus at its last meeting. This shall be resolved soon, and I assure you that your days of worrying are over. Indeed, this government is open to the committee's suggestion of not just a minimum wage, but a living wage. Tinubu further urged Nigerian workers to embrace industrial harmony and trust that his administration will deliver on the promises of better living conditions for workers and all Nigerians. So this is coming from the president, that a minimum wage that will correspond with our current economy, with our current economic situation. But labor is insisting on 615,000 naira minimum wage every month. 615,000 every month. Tell me, so do you see a line of consensus? Do you see them coming together to make a compromise? Because the federal government wants something that is feasible, that will suit the current economic situation. And you and I know that we are already in an economic mess. We have to deal with a lot of things. Our naira struggling against other currencies, inflation of food here and there, government trying to settle infrastructural deficits here and there in the country. Do you think 615,000 naira proposed by the National Labour Congress is feasible? Do you think that the federal government can pay this, especially at this time of economic instability in the country? What's your take? This and more is what I would want you to talk about. You can leave your comment, you can call in, or leave your comment on our pages on the internet. At Facebook, it is at CACTV. On YouTube, CACTV. Just leave us a comment to tell us how you feel or what you think. Hello? Oh, we missed the call. Kindly call in again, as we'll be glad to hear from you. What do you think the government should do separately? What do you think they should do separately, or differently rather? What do you think they should do differently this time? Should they stop looking at the economic situation and just flow by the demands of the NLC and TUC, or they should come to a round table? Even though they are already at a round table, they should endeavor to reach a consensus so that this minimum wage would be delivered already, and the civil servants, workers all over, can start enjoying whatever has been agreed upon. Yeah, this is how we end the show this morning. My name is Toke Bravo, and I am happy being on the show today. Hope you enjoyed the show too. Please, you can leave a comment of how you feel about this show on the internet. I'll read your comments and get back to you. Thank you for joining us. It will be another pleasant day tomorrow on the show. I love you all. It's a bye-bye from me.